Electric Company, doing business as Eversource Energy, to install approximately 723 feet of conduit and 3 new MHs, I'm not going to read them, and 10 feet of conduit from new MH10 to 67-150 to existing pole 83-6 in the right-of-way of Horse Neck Road. I believe we have some representatives from NSTAR here. Thank you. Can you just introduce yourselves, please?
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Jessica Elder, representing Eversource. Thank you for having me this evening. Oh, there we are.
There you go.
Jessica Elder, representing Eversource.
Hi, I'm Anthony Valu. I'm Community Relations for Eversource.
All right, thank you. So you want to tell us what you've got going on here?
Sure. I'll start. So before we get into the actual petition, I would just like to take a little step back and give you guys a bird's eye view of the total scope of the project and what we're looking to do in Westport, because we're going to come back with a few petitions. So I just want to make sure you guys understand the total scope. So what we have in front of you tonight is about 800 feet going south on Horse Neck Road of underground. But the reason for this is we call it our Group 2 project. We're upgrading. Westport is fed by 2 substations, one on Cross Road, one on Fisher Road, both in Dartmouth. Both of these substations are being upgraded to increase capacity for new, we call it distributed energy resources, which is essentially solar. The Fisher Road feeds a large part of basically South Westport. So as you can see here, we're adding 2 new circuits underground coming out of Fisher, down Horse Neck, and then down Drift. So we'll pick up the feed at Horse Neck, then that becomes overhead after this 800 feet and continues all the way down. Same thing with Drift Road. Once that underground is completed, we pick up that circuit and come down Drift. The benefits, it's not just about increasing capacity for solar. We're adding 2 new circuits, and you'll see it as like it's like a bunch cable. It's really called a Hendrix. It's 3 cables sort of bunched together. The top cable is a messenger cable that allows better communication between our equipment. And as part of these upgrades, we're installing a new switch gear, new transformers. So in real time, if a tree limb falls on a piece of wire, it can literally shake it off, communicate with the other switches on the circuit. If that problem's resolved, it switches right back on. Instead of losing power for large amounts of time, this decreases the outages and decreases the time, and also decreases the number of people out, as we were able to switch between circuits and between pieces of equipment. And as for another big driver of this is cost. The solar developers are paying for a large portion of it, over 80%. So the cost to the ratepayers and the consumers is at a very, very minimal, which allows us to do these upgrades and increase resiliency and reliability for all of Westport in the cheapest way possible. So I just want to make sure you guys had that big picture, because I know it's a little piecemeal, because I know we're only petitioning for the 800 feet on Horse Neck now, but we'll be back basically from Division to Horse Neck for the rest of it, and we know we have to do our work in Dartmouth too. So we're not going to start construction. That doesn't mean we're going to put shovels on the ground tomorrow. This might not be till the next spring construction time. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that as well, and we'll have plenty of coordination meetings with Highway and other town departments if necessary.
Can you just clarify which color is it? You've got this color coded. Is this petition align with one of those colors you're talking about, or is it?
Yeah, you see the little blue, it's like green, orange, then blue. Mm-hmm. Where the blue turns into red, it's that little corner.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Jim, anything else we should know about this?
This little section is underground, and it's a street that was repaved within the last couple of years, so the highway department had some concerns about the restoration of the pavement. They had a typical trench detail. I would only suggest that if the board approves it, that they approve it subject to restoration for the highway department.
I move we approve subject to pavement restoration as suggested by the town highway surveyor.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
If you wouldn't mind. Obviously, in my time on the Conservation Commission, I've been pretty strongly opposed to solar projects, specifically in Westport, with the clear cutting of acreage for that. I know much of this is going in to benefit solar development along Souls Way and possibly over on Fisher Road. So again, I'm not a proponent of clear cutting 20, 30, and 40 acres to put solar in. I believe that destruction of the environment is probably funded by Eversource ratepayers as your rates continue to go up. Just as an aside, State of Rhode Island has lost 1,041 acres in a 3-year time period to solar. That's open space to solar, and that's 69% of all open space lost in the state of Rhode Island is to solar. So I will be voting against it. I just wanted to clarify my vote as to why I'm opposed to it, because the constant destruction of open space. The only project that I probably would support in town, and I did support, was the gravel pit off of Old County Road. Thank you.
I just want to be clear that this particular petition is the poles and the trenching for this is not approving a solar project. This is for the infrastructure that supports the getting the power back to the main substation, right?
The infrastructure in order to support solar projects.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is, anything else from the board? This is a public hearing. Is there anybody who has anything on this particular agenda item? You can go to the microphone right behind you.
Hello, my name's Joel Howe. I'm the owner of the property at the corner of Hicksbridge and Horseneck, 473 Hicksbridge Road. And I was just hoping to find out more information about, I heard the overall description of the master plan, but how this affects our property. We have electric lines and cable lines coming off those first 2 poles on Horseneck to our house and our barn there. So I wasn't clear on whether those poles are actually going away or they're just being supplemented by the underground work, and whether we're going to have to dig trenches onto our property to connect to an underground conduit in the future. The second question I have is about the property across the street at 27 Horseneck Road, which is a farm property owned by my family, and we have tractors and different vehicles coming and going from the driveway onto Horseneck at 27 Horseneck throughout the day. And I'm just wondering what the plan is for keeping access to the driveway so that vehicles can come and go throughout the day.
You want to take that?
Yep, thanks for those questions. We don't limit access. We'll make sure to have full access so you can get in and out. We don't block people in when we do construction.
There'll be a detail, of
Yep.
course.
And we're adding 2 new circuits, so the poles are going to stay there. There's no change we're not going to dig a new trench for a new connection to your house. These are just 2 new circuits. All those poles will stay there. All the connections remain the same. We're just adding another circuit.
Is there anything else?
My name is Robert Lammer. I live at 20 Horseneck Road, which is maybe 3 houses down from the intersection south of it. We have an underground service right now from a telephone pole, so I think my question was just answered there,
Yep.
that the poles stay.
Right.
The other question I have is, there's a telephone pole with some type of equipment at the top, and lack of a better word, it's some type of switch so that people can service the 5 miles south of our home. So we're north of that, so we're protected from shutting the circuit off. So I'm just wondering if that type of protection would still be there, or whether that is moving, if you understand the question.
Yep, nope, all that stays. But that's a good point. So we're adding more of that type of equipment the further south we go.
Right,
That's a little bit lacking at the moment.
okay, but the one that's there stays?
Yep.
So, I mean, from personal view, we're protected from power outages. Like, what happens 5 miles south of us doesn't impact us because you shut off the switch 50 feet from our house, if you understand the question.
I guess you're pretty lucky then.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So I don't want to hold up this
Yeah.
town for my own little niche question. The other thing, and I'm sure this is being considered, but there's a very high water table there, and there's a lot of water surface flooding. So I don't know who owns like the gutter at the gas station property that takes stormwater underneath and then dumps it into the field and it runs across the field. So there's a very high water table and there's a lot of surface flooding. And I don't know, I just want you to consider whatever you're building underground, it might not be the best environment.
No, we're going to take all that into consideration. We'll have a bunch of pre-construction meetings with Highway before any of this happens.
Anything else? So we have a motion and a second to approve the petition subject to pavement restoration as requested by the highway surveyor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Me.
So that's 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 absence. Thank you.
Okay.
You're not here for the next one? No, yeah. All right, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
The next public hearing we have is a request from Compton Clambakes LLC at 140 Charlotte White Road Extension for the change of ownership interest to Jason Oliveira and Nathan Brown, change of manager to Nathan Brown, and requested new doing business as Backyard Westport for the wine and malt beverage license at 140 Charlotte White Road Extension. Is there anyone here for that?
Good evening, thank
Can-
you. My name is Attorney Walsh. I am Office of Markey and
Can you
Walsh
s-
in New Bedford.
yeah.
Sorry, speaking
Sorry.
to the microphone. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. Tim Walsh on behalf of Compton Clambake, doing business as Backyard Westport. The two gentlemen who own the company, Jason Oliveira and Nathan Brown, are here with me tonight. Nathan Brown is asking to be named manager. We have several amendments to the liquor license. Paula Brown has been very helpful. Thank you very much throughout this process. It's been a little bit of a process to get here, but we feel like we're in good shape now to have this before your board. We're asking for approval. It would then go to the ABCC for final approval. I did talk to my clients today. We need updated certificates from the DOR and DUA as those have gone stale, but we will get those this week. Everything else, I believe, is in order. And again, the town has been very helpful with the application. If there are any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Do we have all the paperwork is in order? I was looking for the police recommendation. Do we have a police recommendation? Or then we don't need one? Okay. Okay. So this is basically your changed ownership of the property, basically the same thing. Are the hours still the same?
Everything about the operation is going to remain the same. This is really just cleaning up what the town and the state have on record related to the business. There was a slight change in the ownership structure. We're reporting that to the town and the state. I think they're changing the name of the DBA, and that's it.
Yeah.
I move we approve change in ownership pursuant to the way described in our package.
Thank you.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. I'm in favor of this. I think you have a great place. You make a great burger. But I do want to just point out that it did take a little bit of a long time to get proper communication going on with the town about what was going on up there. So I want to make sure that there's no lapse again in making sure we're getting proper permits and the proper operation in place.
I hope that was part of the reason my office was involved. We've tried to stay on top of this, and the town has been great to work with. So again, I want to thank Ms. Brown from the town, and we will get those updated certificates. And I believe anything else that the ABCC, generally what happens in these, the ABCC gives it to an investigator. They will contact my office as the point person, and we will work as quickly as we can. And my clients, I believe, understand how important it is that they work quickly as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Anything from the public? All in favor? Oh, wait, did you have something?
I think
Just-
there's some people back there.
Yeah, you go to the mic, please.
Good evening. Greg Harold, 455 Drift Road. We are a neighbor. We're in the backyard of the backyard, actually. So, the only thing, my concern is in 2018, there were several, the zoning board had several requirements or conditions for Little Compton Clambakes to proceed, and I just wanted to make sure that those would be still in effect for this new transfer of the liquor license.
So I think that this does not change, because this is only the liquor license that we're ruling on right now,
This
right?
would have no impact on what the town required via zoning. No, none at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so the conditions that were set in 2018 will remain?
That's my understanding. This particular action doesn't change anything that was said.
Not
Oh.
even not asking or addressing that issue.
Okay.
It's not-
No, they've been great neighbors. Just thought I'd ask. Thank you. All right.
That's certainly not the intention of this, and that wouldn't operate this way
Yeah.
legally, no.
All right, anything else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So that's 4 in favor and 1 absence. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a great night.
Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Item 2, we have a request from Cumberland Farms of Massachusetts, Inc. to change the officers of the annual package store wine and malt license at 596 State Road. The request is to remove Carolyn Tadelbaum as president, treasurer, and director, and to add John Carey as president and director, and Lisa Nashanon as being added as treasurer and director. Is there anyone here for that?
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Elizabeth Pisano from Upton, Connell, and Devlin, counsel for Cumberland Farms. This application is just to change the officers and directors of the licensee. There are no operational changes at the store. Everything will remain the exact same. It's just a housekeeping to update the corporate officers and directors.
So we're strictly dealing at the corporate level and not at the store level?
The licensee level.
Yes.
So yes, just corporate, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. There are multiple locations in Massachusetts that have liquor licenses as well. In the we've gone through hearings throughout the state this summer. This is one of the last ones, and the ABCC investigator who's getting all of these have already given approval in other towns. So they did ask us to just make some minor corrections, like clerical errors in our application package. So I don't know if it's okay if I can give you the updated ones just so that the ABCC doesn't have to ask us again for it. It's the exact same thing. It's just like minor clerical things. So I'm going to give you this. Thank you. And that's it.
This way.
Yeah.
But all the paperwork is in order. You have everything you need. Yes, everything is in order. Okay, great. Is there any discussion? You just go to the mic.
As long as there's somebody here representing corporate for Cumberland Farms, I would just like to say that I have thought for years and even asked the people that work there why they don't do a better job with that particular outlet of Cumberland Farms. It's a mess, and it's right in the middle. I mean, it's right across from Town Hall. It must be a gold mine. They must make tons of money.
This is the different, this is the State Road one.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as corporate's here from Cumberland Farms, I'm just wondering, could you pass it back to
Sure.
corporate and say, could you do something? Could you make it look a little nicer?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I agree with you because there's a vast difference in the ambiance and quality of the State Road store, which recently went through a fairly substantial renovation,
Yeah.
and the one in the village.
Yeah.
So, you-
Okay. I will pass
Right,
it on.
Constance.
Okay.
See it on your way out.
I will. I think I passed it.
It's very
Okay, I won't. Thank you.
All right, so do we have anything else? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve as presented.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So that's 4 in favor and 1 absence. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
For 3A, we have a request from Police Chief Christopher Dunn to appoint Michael Fitzgerald as a reserve police officer, pending successful completion of a background check and psychological examination. Hello, Deputy Chief.
Hello.
Welcome. You want to tell us what this is about?
Sure. So on behalf of, and speaking for the chief, just wanted to address the need for reserve police officers, and he respectfully requests that the board consider appointing Michael Fitzgerald contingent upon his successful completion of a background check and psychological examination. Mr. Fitzgerald brings extensive experience, having served in law enforcement for over 20 years and retiring as a lieutenant with the Massachusetts State Police, serving as a station commander of the Dartmouth Barracks. He is a resident of Westport, married, and has 3 children. If approved, he proposes an effective appointment date of Sunday, September 14, 2025, And he also noted that it does not require any additional funding for this position.
Great, thank you. Mr. Fitzgerald, you want to say anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anything else while you're here?
Sure, if you don't mind. So I just wanted to touch base on our first national night out was a huge success, and the chief and I just wanted to especially thank the community outreach unit in the department. They worked feverishly to get this pulled together. All the departments within town that helped us out as well. I named them all on Facebook, and I don't want to name them here, so I don't want to miss anybody. It was great to see everybody from the community coming together, enjoying some family-friendly fun. A lot of resources within town were showcased there, and I hope somebody got something out of that by seeing what was provided. As the summer winds down, we're grateful that we didn't have any, and we had an uneventful summer, thank God, as it relates to emergencies in town. But however, the police department and the fire department got struck with lightning last week. We did lose some equipment, and we're getting some stuff together for the insurance company for that. And then
I just want to just add, you guys did a really great job of continuing service to the town when there's a little bit of chaos going on over there.
Appreciate that, thank you. And just upcoming events, we have National Coffee with a Cop coming up on October 1st. The location for that is yet to be determined. And then Halloween happenings with Dana from the Recreation Department. That's going to be happening October 19th at the conservation area on Adamsville Road from 12 to 2 p.m. So I just want to throw that out there.
All right, thank you.
We'll be there. Thank you for your time.
Okay, anything before we let him go?
All set?
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Likewise, thank you.
3B, we have a request to appoint Paula Brown to the Assistant to the Town Administrator effective September 8, 2025. I just want to do a little bit of explaining on this one because this one has got some attention on social media over the weekend. So it had been characterized on social media as an HR position, which is not entirely accurate. This position, when we had the retirement of Denise Bouchard, who was secretary to the select board, and then the announced retirement for Jim Hartnett, what we did is we looked at the three positions in the select board office. So that was the town administrator, the secretary to the select board, and the administrative assistant, administrative clerk, whatever your title was before. So we took a look at those three existing positions and looked at what we would need going forward to properly manage the town. One of the things that we have been struggling with from town administrators since long before Jim came here is the number of hats that that person has to wear and the number of people directly reporting to the town administrator. So we have over a number of meetings, this is not out of the blue, over a number of meetings, we've talked about Jim's resignation, we've talked about Denise's resignation, we've talked about how we might rework some of those jobs. We had a job description created for an assistant to the town administrator, and I can let others speak more to that. We posted the position, we interviewed for that position, we've talked about it in numerous meetings. One of the things that we did do is we wanted to make sure that that position could take on some of the HR responsibilities that the town administrator currently had, because HR isn't just hiring, it's managing performance evaluations. There's all kinds of employee relations type things that go on, grievances that happen. So we felt like we wanted to be sure that whoever we put in that position could be effective in helping the town administrator by having some HR experience or helping with some of the HR functions. So I kind of got advertised around as an HR job. It's not an HR job. It's an assistant to the town administrator that does have some specific responsibilities related to HR, but that's certainly not the only thing that that position is doing. It's shifting from what the town administrator is doing or supplementing what the town administrator is doing. So we went through a process. We interviewed several. We had a number of candidates. We interviewed several. We advised to appoint Paula at our last meeting. We we voted to appoint Paula subject to a successful contract negotiation. We had an executive session that night that we talked about our strategy for that negotiation. Jim negotiated with Paula and they came to an agreement. So what's before us today is a very lengthy process that was followed for a job that is not just HR, it includes other responsibilities. So I just want to say all that. I don't know, if some of you were more involved in the hiring process than I. Want to add anything?
No, very thorough.
Yeah, you've covered it well. Obviously, this is not a newly created position. It was a long-serving position of someone retiring, so Paul is going to slide into that and do a lot of the HR. She's going to obviously attend seminars and some training to get stronger in that background, but Paula ended up being the best candidate for the job with her relationships here in town and here in the town hall.
Anybody else have anything? What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion from the public? You can go to the microphone.
Hello, my name is Keith Dias. I'm a resident and small business owner here in town. So just to clarify, so currently there's 3 positions. There's a secretary, correct?
Secretary is retired, yep.
There's the town administrator, and then there was Paula's position now.
Yes.
Okay, so are we creating a are the other
No.
2 positions plus the town administrator going to be filled after her appointment, or is she
No.
one of those 3 positions?
There will be 3 positions, the town administrator, the assistant to the town administrator, and what's the name of the position? Assistant
Select confidential clerk.
confidential clerk. There's only going to be 3 employees at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you for the
There were 3
clarification.
before, there will be 3
3
after.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 4 in favor and 1 absent. Welcome aboard, Paula. She hates being on camera, so I hope John did not just put the camera on her. We have 3C is a request from Keith Novo to appoint Nathan Alden to a part-time IT technician position. Is anyone here for that? No. Jim, you want to tell us about that?
Well, this is a position that's been in the budget for the last 2 years. We've had difficulty filling it. We did have an appointment at one of the last meetings, and that applicant withdrew. Keith spoke very highly of Nathan Alden. I did not participate in the interview, but he is here locally in town. He's agreed to the position in the rate of $30 per hour. This would be part-time under 20 hours per week. This position would be working with the different departments here throughout the day. Keith is mostly nights and weekends, but it's nice to have somebody here during the day that can answer questions. We're also looking to have this position kind of go through some of the departments and give them suggestions or ideas as to how to be more efficient with some of the software that we have. We don't have that right now, so.
And I might say that was one of my concerns going way back, that we didn't have a help desk available during the day.
Yeah.
I think this is going to vastly improve the ability of town employees to get access to tech support. We have a good backbone in the work that Keith does, but I think that from a service and an employee user perspective, this is a big improvement.
And we did have a similar position to this about 6 years ago that was here probably for about, I'd say at least 5 years. And they went full-time to the school department and we lost that employee. So this is kind of filling that empty void.
I think we're at very bare bones in IT. This is one of the departments that really concerns me a lot about, the modernization. We don't have sufficient support for our websites, but more importantly, we don't have sufficient support for the employees. They're needing to use software more and more, and the town that wants to provide more services online. So I think this is really needed. I think I think this is a department we have to look at going forward about how do we shift more. When you only have one person in IT, it's a very high risk, right? It's very risky. And we saw this with the lightning strike at the police and fire stations. We had Eversource was out there pretty darn quickly, but we only had one IT person to help them come back online, and that's really a public safety issue. So I'm glad we're getting another person in there. I wish we would do more. So what's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Anything from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So that's 4 in favor with 1 absence. 3D, we have a request from the Shellfish Advisory Committee to appoint Ron Severia to the Shellfish Advisory Committee. Do you want to say anything, Rick? Or you just...
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rick Smith. I'm the chair of the Shellfish Advisory Board. Ron Savaria has been on the board for decades, and he filled in as chair after Captain Borden stepped down as chair and decided a year ago or so to step away from the shellfish. Well, he has since retired, and he has a lot of time left in his life, so he wants to share that with us, so he's asked to come back onto the board. There are very few people that have the knowledge of the river and the shellfish business in Westport, as well as being a lifelong resident of the town. So we voted unanimously for Ron to come on board. We'd love to have him, and we'd seek your approval and bring him back on the Shellfish Advisory Board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure of the board. Wait, don't leave. Don't leave, Rick. Rick, don't leave. No, we're going to take up 4B, but we got to vote on this one first.
Motion to approve.
So we have a motion and a second to appoint Ron Savaria to the Shellfish Advisory Committee. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 4 in favor, 1 absent. I'm just going to bump up 4B because you're sitting here. The request from the Shellfish Advisory Committee to open the 2025 to 2026 Bay Scallop season on October 15 at 8 a.m. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, just briefly, every October, in accordance with the state, we open somewhere around Columbus Day, the long weekend. This year, the board decided that Wednesday, the 15th, would be the day to open the Bay Scallop season, and that will run through March unless the state overrules us and extends it. A few years back, probably 7 or 8 years ago, they did extend it because we had such a great season. We haven't had that season since. So we're hoping that there will be some Bay Scallops out there on the river that we can harvest, and we'd like to open on the 15th of October.
Thank you. Any questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to
Accept
approve.
the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 4 in favor and 1 absence. Now you can go.
Now we can go? Thank you very much.
Back up to 3E, we have a request from the Finance Committee to appoint Zach LeBreau to the Energy Committee and the Tax Incentive Program Committee, Duncan Law to the Internet Advisory Committee and the Infrastructure Oversight Committee, and Al Lees to the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. So
Move to accept the recommendations as presented.
Second.
is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, just a question. Are these one-year appointments?
Yes, I think so. 1 year, right? Yeah, 1 year. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 4 in favor and 1 absent. We have a request from Bonnie Strobel. Bonnie's here. Oh, there you are. The library director to promote Ryan Farley from Library Aide 1 to Principal Clerk, and to post the library aide position both in-house and external if needed. Do you want to tell us about this, or you want?
Hello.
Hey.
I was here back at the beginning of June to ask for the appointment to fill 2 positions. One was the full-time principal clerk, and one was the part-time library aide 1. Unfortunately, things didn't work out with the person we had hired as principal clerk, but we had hired Ryan Farley as the library aide 1, and she has been fantastic, and we love her at the library. So we would like to offer her the full-time position. It has already gone through the in-house posting, and there were no union members who were interested.
And then you want to,
And then-
assuming we appoint that one, then you
Exactly,
want to
yes,
post
and
the
post
library.
The library aide 1.
Okay. Any discussion? Any questions? Jim, do you have a recommendation?
Recommend approval.
This is the pleasure of the board.
Madam Chair, I recommend we approve this request.
Second.
Do we need to say the date? What date do you,
Oh, tomorrow, if that's okay.
effective immediately? Okay. All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 4 in favor and 1 absent. Is there anything going on in the library you want to tell us about real quick?
Yes, this week we are having our used book sale put on by the Friends of the Library. It is open every day during the regular library hours in the Manton Community Room, and we still have a ton of really good shape used books. Most of them are $2. So please come visit us. It's through the
Thank
end
you.
of Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So action item, we have 4A, request from the Westport River Watershed Alliance to approve the annual Fall Electronics Recycle Day on Wednesday, September 17, from 9 to 11 at 816 Main Road, which is here, right?
Yes.
So there'll be Wednesday, September 17, from 9 to 11 here for electronics recycling.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 4 in favor and 1 absent. We have a request from Brock Cardero to support House Bill 2432, an act to reduce incidence and death from pancreatic cancer. Welcome, Mr. Cordero.
Thank you. I appreciate being able to come down a couple miles from Dartmouth and be before you today. I did want to come to ask for your support and for a letter of support for an act to reduce incidence death from pancreatic cancer, House Bill 2432, Senate Bill 1484. As a bit of a background, pancreatic cancer is actually the second deadliest form of cancer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's got a 5-year relative survival rate of only 13%, the lowest of any major cancer. And of the most common form of pancreatic cancer, the survival rate is only 8%. Over 70% will die within the first year of diagnosis. And that is why I'm here, because that includes my father, Norman Cordero, who died back on March 30th, 2014 of pancreatic cancer, thus leading me to form and serve as the chair of the Special Legislative Commission to study pancreatic cancer, and then co-author the bill with Mark Heimovitz of the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network of Massachusetts. So what I'm really hoping for here is I've reached out to all the municipalities here in the Commonwealth. First, the town of Dartmouth, and then the mayor of New Bedford have agreed to submit letters. I'm before you now, and I may be running off to Fairhaven for the same request later on tonight. Because what I'm trying to do is marshal our support. For the past 2 legislative sessions, we've earned an incredible number of co-sponsors for this legislation. Currently, we stand at 90 co-sponsors this session alone. We've ID'd 113 sponsors overall. Representative Willett is a co-sponsor. Senator Roderick has expressed his support to me for the legislation. But the problem is we keep running into a roadblock with the Joint Committee on Public Health. We've gotten the favorable recommendation, Joint Committee on Healthcare Financing. We've received the favorable recommendation of the Joint Committee on Healthcare, but for the past 2 sessions, we just get caught up in the logjam at the end of the session, where most bills, of course, end up going to die. And as such, I'm hoping that we can build this coalition of municipalities to show support to Representative John Lawn, the House Chair of Healthcare Financing, and Senator Cindy Friedman, the Senate Chair, that this is legislation that not only has tremendous support under the Golden Dome at the State House, but also in as many as the 351 cities and towns as possible here in the Commonwealth. Lots of cancers get their just acknowledgement up in the State House. But even the American Cancer Society tends to overlook pancreatic cancer, even though it is the second deadliest in the Commonwealth, third deadliest in the United States, and is forecast to become number 2 by 2030. So it would have almost very little financial impact to the state. If anything, it could have financial savings for the state and local governments with improved health care and cutting costs. So it's to me, it's a bill that should have passed a few years ago. This would fulfill the recommendations of the study commission that was created back in 2015. We met 2018, 2019, and of course hit the COVID roadblock there. But now we did translate our recommendations into actionable legislation, and now I'm before you today and asking for your support.
Thank you. And we do have a bunch of information in our packet, as well as some of the letters from other municipalities that we saw.
I couldn't support this more. I lost my mother to pancreatic cancer, and a couple of good friends. And it hits people, touches more people than we can imagine. So I am moved that we support the legislation as presented.
Second?
Any other discussion? So I also support this. I'm a cancer survivor myself, and while I had a very highly curable cancer, I really feel for the people who do not. And so anything we can do to support education and screening, I am all in favor of. Anything from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's 4 in favor and 1 absence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate your support.
We have an action item. I was thinking after I saw this list, I realized that we hadn't been accepting donations in a while. So there's a very long list because we haven't done this. So just for those of you who are maybe not so familiar with the process, our departments can't accept money directly. In most cases, they have to go through us. So this is people who have donated to the Council on Aging, and we're just accepting the donations on behalf of the Council on Aging. So we have $80 from Anonymous for best use, $25 for Betty Ann Mullins for best use, $26 Carol DuPont best use, $10 Carolyn Majowski best use, $26 Coffee Hospitality best use, $50 Eileen Rogers best use, $100 James Connor best use, $10 Kadeen Cagle best use, $25 Lois Shea best use, $10 Nicholas Saunier best use, $15 Richard Manchester best use, $100 Jill Cooker in memory of Patricia Donovan, $50 Linda Leo in memory of Patricia Donovan, $100 Marie Pimentel in memory of Patricia Donovan, $75 Patricia Donovan in memory of Patricia Donovan, $50 Simone Barresi in memory of Lillian Barresi, $150 Walter Rigo in memory of Teresa Rigo, $1,000 the Friends of the Westport Council on Aging Social Day Program, $50 Carol Scarbo's Social Day Program, $2,000 the Disability Commission to Stroke Buddies, $2,000 Friends of the Westport Council on Aging Stroke Buddies, $50 Donna Latinville, a tax donation, $15 Anonymous for Tech Help, $10 Louise Gerards for Tech Help, $40 Melissa Gell for Tech Help, $100 Nancy Beal for Tech Help, $10 for Susan Oliveira for Tech Help. So the total is $6,177.
Madam Chair, I move that these donations be accepted.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I can say that on the tech help, that's a pretty busy aspect of the council on aging. I was sitting over, there was somebody in the lobby this morning when I was there and trying to squeeze in the earliest possible appointment for tech help.
They can help you with all your
It's back
technology.
online, I guess.
All right, anything else on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 4 in favor and 1 absent. Thank you to all the generous donors. We have E, a request from Chris Gonzalez, the highway surveyor, to approve the contract for PJ Keating Company for the Chapter 90 year 2025-26 paving improvement project, $920,447.50. Jim, do you want to tell us about this?
This was discussed at the last meeting. The Select Board approved the authorization to go forward with the contract. This is for Chapter 90 work for the streets that will be done this year by the Highway Department under the Chapter 90 funding. I'd recommend approval.
Thank you. I just want to note that the note we received says the roads included Sanford Road south of Briggs, Main Road north of Charlotte White, Forge Road, Union Avenue, 3 locations on Old County Road, 2 east and 1 west. The work should start mid-September through the end of October. It's the pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 4 in favor and 1 absent. We have a request from Donna Emerald, Chair of the Opioid Settlement Fund Advisory Committee, to approve the RFP to replace Lieutenant Glenn Nunes with firefighter paramedic Bob Porowski, and to add an alternate police department member, and to appoint Detective Michelle Donovan as the alternate member. If it's okay with, Donna, you can go ahead. If it's okay with you, can we just do the appointments and then talk about the RFP? So this would be for replacing Glenn News with paramedic with Bob Porowski, add an alternate police department member, and make that be Michelle Donovan. Do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so let's talk about, welcome. So let's talk about the RFP. Or talk about the opioid settlement fund advisory committee and what this RFP is about.
Well, thank you very much. I wanted to start off by reminding everybody who we are and what we're about.
Okay, great.
The purpose of the advisory committee is to advise and the select board on appropriate use of funds to address the opioid crisis, support affected individuals and families, promote public health initiatives, and ultimately save lives in Westport. We are tasked with to engage the community, to involve diverse community voices in the decision-making process, and again, to advise the select board and stakeholders on the strategic use of the settlement funds. So we've been doing that. What we've been doing is we have, as a committee, we've met 8 times and twice remotely. We have done a number of outreach to get information from stakeholders in the community. We've had 6 organizations come and speak to the committee about what they provide and how we can work with them. We've also had community input by a focus group with the residents in town. And we have had, at Police Night Out, we did a survey during that time. We've also had a mailing where we mailed out a survey to professionals. We have attended AA and NA meetings to find out what people in those meetings would want to see happen with the funds. And we've also contacted agencies to find out more about what they're doing, and I attended a PTO meeting as well. So we've been doing the work of getting community input. So as a result of that, we've developed an RFP to request proposals for services to be provided in Westport to meet the community needs. So that in doing the RFP, it was first developed by Dr. Dorsky and reviewed by our committee. We also edited it a few times. I met with Jim, who also made recommendations for editing. And so we would like the input from the select board because we really can't move forward without seeking out any kind of proposal to move the funds to help Westport residents.
Go ahead.
This has been sort of a, we've had a lot of discussion on this one recently. I think that it's fair to say. And I've looked at other communities with opioid settlement advisory funds, and it seems that they sort of come in the door, and in some places they get parked at the Board of Health and no place else. In other communities, they get parked at the police department and go no place else. And what we try to do in Westport is try to broker a relationship where we've invited a lot of the key stakeholders in terms of town departments and citizens to be able to decide how best to spend this money. And so we're not, this RFP doesn't suggest awarding it to a particular department to administer, so to speak. However, there's this whole notion of having to administer grants, and that doesn't happen in a truly collective type of way. You have to have somebody responsible. And so we've been going back and forth in terms of where the accountability should lie between the town administrator's office and the Board of Health. And what we have is sort of what I'm seeing here is rather than trying to solve it tonight, is to charge the town administrator and the health director to work together to put together a system for administration of the RFP. And that may be driven a lot by the type of response we get and the priorities that emerge. It may get revised for future rounds of it. But we are feeling some pressure to get this one going and getting it, and getting money out the door through the RFP process. So we think we can do both at the same time, which is circulate the RFP and then create a dialogue that will create the, and if I'm misrepresenting this, ladies, please let me know, that can do this equitably and fairly in terms of the workloads of various departments and their staffs. Am I missing something, Donna?
I also invited Val to Bassett to come up, and she is the vice chair of the committee.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I think the idea of our recommendation of the RFP, as well as the process that Mr. Dutra described, is to support the RFP in principle, not word by word, but the kind of priorities that it sets out based on both the state requirements and the input that we got from community residents. So, and then ideally entrusting the committee to work with the key folks involved, both legally and administering the town to get the exact words right. So I think it was just trying to make a distinction between approving every word and the principles, as well as a recommendation for the process.
So I didn't see a copy of the RFP in my packet, so I don't know if I just missed it, but can you just describe again what the RFP is addressing?
Yes. So it's in draft form, but it's called the Opioid Recovery and Remediation Fund for services, programs, or initiatives that mitigate the impact of the opioid epidemic in Westport. And so a lot of what's in here is based on what the state would like to see, but we've also included, and I will pass those around, this is the results of the survey from Police Night Out, so that the select board can see how we're basing some of our recommendations, and some of the recommendations are in the RFP, so I could read a few of those, but they're also in there. Reducing the stigma around discussing substance misuse, mental health, and asking for and receiving treatment and being in recovery. There was a lot of emphasis on youth in the survey. Substance misuse prevention education, positive out-of-school time activities targeted to young people at risk, increasing access to mental health and substance misuse treatment, especially in schools, and a school diversionary program to direct students with behavioral issues related to mental health or substance misuse to treatment and support instead of disciplinary action. And for families, support for families with members affected by substance use disorder. And grief support groups. There's a number of things that were identified by people in the community. One of the ones that that was clear is there's really no crisis place in Westport where people can go to. And so there's a great example in Fall River and in Providence called Safe Station, and it's the fire stations. They have it set up where if somebody's in trouble, they need access to treatment, or they're in a crisis, they can go to the fire department, and the fire department will connect them with resources, connect them with perhaps a recovery coach. But there are things that are already in place in other places in the state that we could also try to duplicate in Westport, because we have nothing available in Westport. There are lots of services outside of Westport that we're trying to bridge as well. So that's part of it, is how can we bridge to those services outside of Westport, like at STAR. We have a relationship now with someone from the FAST team who told us that everything that they're doing in Fall River can be implemented in Westport. And it may not be any charge to our already our funds, but there need to be something else in place that would make it more easy for us to have that kind of program here, easy for the residents also to use, to get access to.
So this RFP would be for organizations or programs or people with ideas like this to put forth and then ultimately to be evaluated to receive funding from the grant,
Correct,
right? So,
correct.
So Jim, your concerns were like the administering of the grant is not a small thing, right? And who owns that? That's one of the reasons you want a little more time to look at that, right?
Yeah, we want it to be successful, right?
Yes.
I think at this point, in checking with other communities throughout the state on a town administrators listserv, we're actually ahead of most communities at this point, mainly because of your committee. The outreach is a big part of it. It's a requirement. The surveys is a requirement. But administering these things takes time and it takes resources. The health department, I think, has contacts in a lot of these similar areas, so I think they need to play a role in it. And how we do that, I think we still need to determine that, but I think we can work towards getting something done.
And then Craig, your preference is to go ahead and do both at the same time?
Yes.
All right.
Because the first time out on an RFP is always going to be revised the next time out. I mean, both in terms of what you're looking for and in terms of how you want to administer it. I mean, we're not walking in with a whole lot of experience at our back, both, as a community and as a state. And if we're successful, I mean, there's also, the state has a lot of discretionary money that can go to localities if we're starting to develop collaborative relationships with neighboring communities, or if we're developing collaborative relationships with organizations that are funded by neighboring communities. So to the extent that we're doing this smart and well, it not only allows us to maximize the money that we already have, but to attract additional funding, because it's a decent percentage of this money is still sitting at the state level, awaiting distribution.
And could I just, again, offer a clarification around timing? So it would still be a couple steps before we even would make a recommendation to the select board about who to fund. So there is, even if this RFP is approved in principle, we'd have to finalize it, put it out there, get responses, review them, and after that, probably multiple month process, come back to this body with a recommendation about here's what we think you all should approve for funding. So a parallel process during that time could be, the work of figuring out how best to administer the grants.
It's worth restating that the committee is an advisory board to us, and we are the recipients and the legal entity that's dispersing the money.
All right, thank you. Anything else from the board? Do you have a motion, Craig?
Motion to approve recommendation as presented by the town administrator.
Second.
And that is to move forward with the, working on the staffing solution and to.
Approve the appointment recommended that the town administrator and health director work together to see if a staffing solution can be finalized before the RFP.
See, he recommended to finalize that before the RFP, but I think what you're saying is to also support the RFP.
Correct.
So you're moving that we recommend that the.
I'm
They work.
accelerating it just
Yeah.
a tad in
Right, okay.
my motion.
Okay. Got that. Do you have a second?
I second it.
Second, okay.
Continue to second.
Is there any discussion? Anything from the audience?
I'd like,
Gotta get to a mic. Not for us, it's for the people in the future.
David Lalima, 418 D Drift Road. I have a 30-year background in child welfare, and we did a lot of collaboration. My first question would be, I think it's important to find out what everybody else is doing with the kind of communities that are similar to ours, so that you're not working from ground zero, and figure out exactly what kind of structures already exist in the state, in the Commonwealth rather, and then see if it plays out. And there is one interesting program that I heard about opioids. I forget which part of the country it was, but it was a very unique approach to how they deal with opioid problems, which was they were using the public defender's office, interestingly enough, and people were going to court, and the court system was shunting them off away from the criminal justice system. We're trying to figure out what were the problems that were generating people to use opioids, instead of using the court system as a cudgel, trying to use the system. So I think there's a lot of information out there that might help us figure out, and I understand Jim's trepidations about this. This is a complex carbohydrate here. And, we're going to have to figure out, because it's, and I think it would be important to know the numbers. What kind of numbers are we talking about, and what's the age brackets that we're dealing with? Are we dealing with just, 15 to 17-year-olds? Are we dealing with 25-year-olds to 40-year-olds? Are we dealing with adult? I mean, I think you need a bigger picture to solve a problem. That would be my...
Well, I think the opioid committee is doing quite a bit of work. Go ahead.
May I answer that? It's all age groups. It is across the lifespan because everyone is impacted. There are grandparents raising their grandkids because their child either had an overdose or is struggling with substance use disorder. Right now, in terms of funds, we have $317,000 that has to use towards programming. We are anticipating receiving over $1 million by 2038. So thus our efforts are to start letting this money work to help people. And we have been sitting on it for a little while. Very little has been spent. The only money that has been spent thus far has been on administrative costs. And I would say if we've spent $1,000 on everything that we've already done, I'd be surprised. But it is, we are anxious to help people. We are anxious to get this money used to help people. And so we have looked at other communities. We have spoken to other people who are beginning to do this work. We will continue to do that. It's not a closed, we're not a closed system. We're an open system. We want to continue to receive feedback from people in the community. We want to continue to hear from other communities who are doing the same work and maybe collaborate with them on a program or initiatives. And we're doing that right now with Fall River because Fall River does have resources that can come into Westport and not pull from already the resources we have. So that's one of the things we're trying to do. We're trying to get the biggest bang for the buck for the town to use to help people.
And the leadership of the committee has been very good at dedicating a portion of our meeting for sort of an in-service type opportunity. And those usually involve guest speakers from other programs that are funded in other communities as well as other communities' approach. And I think one of the first meetings, we basically had a presentation of the Fall River plan. And in terms of the assessment that they did for their needs. We also immediately realized that there was going to be at a scale that we will never replicate, but we could learn, from the elements of it, what we would do well and could emulate in Westport.
And I invite everybody who is watching now or is here now, go to the town YouTube site, and you can watch all of our meetings. They're open meetings, and you can hear all the information that we have received so far from stakeholders in the community. And from actually community members, some consistently come to every meeting to hear what's happening and to give their feedback and input because they're invested in this process. So, and I encourage everybody to be invested in the process. Our next meeting is we usually meet the third Tuesday of every month. So I believe is it the 16th? Yeah. So I invite everyone to come and give your feedback. But again, we want to move forward. That's why we're presenting the RFP so that we can refine it and then have it posted so that people can begin to apply for funds to help the people of Westport.
And we're working on getting information, including some of the data that you asked about and the information, the surveys that we've done up on our website. So
yes, well, that's what I'm working on. We now have a web page, and I've been slowly adding information, our minutes. I put a couple of the videos up there. I haven't done them all yet, but that's part of what we're doing. We want to inform the community, so we're putting some of the key important policies and so forth on the website.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 4 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you for what you're working on.
thank you.
We have item G, a request to approve the lease agreement for 830 Drift Road. So this is the apartment above the town farm.
Yeah, so
Jim?
this goes out for proposals every 3 years. The applicant here was the bidder on this proposal, on this project. We had an old lease agreement that we've probably been using for years. We sent that lease agreement to town council for review, and they've marked it up and edited it, and this is the edited version, kind of bringing it up to date. We did have some code issues with the Board of Health that have been addressed. We have one more item that we're working on. We're just waiting for the pot to be ordered. Well, it's been ordered for it to come in, and we will fix that. But this would be a one-year lease. It's renewable for the following 2 years, at which time we'd have to go out for proposals again. I'd recommend approval of the lease. It's pretty standard. Again, it's just updated from the old wording in the old lease.
Thank you. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is 4 in favor and 1 absent. We have a request to approve the FY27 department budget memo and timeline. Jim, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so requests for capital improvements have gone out, and those are due, I think, next week. This would be the yearly budget memo. We're sending it out a week or two early, trying to get some of the preliminary budgets in so we can get them reviewed and maybe get a draft budget before it's here in Town Hall. It's a standard budget timeline. We've just adjusted the dates to correspond with the select board meetings. In the budget memo itself, we're asking for salaries to be level funded with the negotiated raises. And the expense accounts, we're looking to be, for the most part, level funded. Any increase in the expense account requests from the departments would have to be supported with documentation, and we would review each one independently. It's fairly standard to what we've done the last few years, and we just moved the timeline up a couple of weeks.
So just because I know one of the topics that came up on social media is lack of transparency in the budget process, I just want to make sure that we understand the calendar so you can hold us all accountable to it. We've been following a calendar very similar to this for probably 10 years now. So the department's requests are due to the town administrator on the 10th of October. The preliminary budgets, so after the town administrator has reworked those, the preliminary budgets will be given to the departments on the 7th of November. Then the town administrator will be meeting with the departments. They will finalize the recommendation on December 1. On December 8, there'll be a notice to the departments and boards and committees of the article submittal deadline. And then on December 15 will be the recommended budget submitted to the select board. So I think it's really important because we're probably going to have a different town administrator that we end the budget process with when we start. So the department requests on October 10. We're going to get the first budget submitted to the select board on December 15. We will spend the month of January and February, probably every meeting like we have on almost every other year, talking about the budgets. The deadline for submission of town meeting articles will be January 26. The deadline for the select board to submit the budget to the finance committee is February 20. So February 20, we have to finalize our recommendation of the budget to the finance committee. On February 24, we will close the warrant. We'll finalize the warrant on March 9, and then we will approve the town meeting warrant for posting on March 23rd, and then the town meeting is May 5th. So that is the timeline. We'll put that on the website. So did anybody have anything they wanted to amend or change with the memo or the timeline?
Nope.
No. All right, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Yeah, you can. You got to go to the microphone, though.
I'm going to tell Jim to go to the next slide.
Oh.
I'm missing a slide here, so I'm missing E through.
Oh, he missed the slide. It's on paper right there.
I tried to sneak through, but.
Thanks for pointing that out, Weston.
That's why I didn't want to go to them.
Did we get a motion? We
Yep.
did. Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 4 in favor and 1 absence. The next item on the agenda is a request to appoint Roger Fernandez as the town engineer, subject to appointment agreement negotiations. This one has gotten a lot of press over social media and a lot of discussion. So what I want to do is I want to talk about this in 3 parts. The first part is, should we have a town engineer position in Westport? The second is, what's the process for selecting and hiring the town engineer? Should we move forward with it? And the third part is, should we hire Roger Fernandez for this position? Mr. Fernandez is not here today, and so I do not intend to take up the question of whether or not we will appoint Mr. Fernandez. But I do want to talk about the first 2, which is, should we have a town engineer position? And what is the process that we should be using in selecting the candidate? Because I believe where some of the stuff that people want to talk about Mr. Fernandez specifically is things that you would like for the select board to consider when we are considering an applicant, right? So maybe we have overlooked some key materials that we should go back and look at before we select a specific person.
Madam Chair, I would like to, in that light, I'd like to move on the 3rd item to table the motion pending discussion of the other 2 items and any follow-up actions that may be engaged as a result.
Do you want to table the appointment of Roger Fernandez, but move forward with the other 2 topics? Do we have a second for that? Does not, we don't have a second for that, or do we?
If I may opine, I would second it, but we normally, in a change in the agenda, which you pretty much take care of for us on behalf of the select board, I don't think it needs a motion. You can simply do that. It's our prerogative as select board. But if there's greater comfort level with a motion, I will second it.
I'm fine either way. Craig, are you?
Right. I mean, I think it's the prerogative of the chair, but I also thought that so much of this has been about the appointment that I'd like to discuss the other 2 items now, knowing that it was my inclination, and I'm trusting that maybe others on the board that would share that. If not, we'll die for lack of a second, to move to table the motion, and then that we would deal with the other 2 issues at the current time.
I think, go ahead.
I think I would need some clarification as to, we have the first 2 items, but the 3rd item and what was on the agenda was to appoint Roger Fernandez as the town engineer. Does that mean we are going to, or he will withdraw as that, or we're going to continue to post that?
Well, let's
online?
talk about the other 2 first,
Okay.
and then we can talk about that.
Yeah,
right?
I think if I'd rather just table it now and then have the other 2 discussions, because we might shape what we're going to do.
I think the other 2 will shape what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But Mr. Fernandez is not here to withdraw, for example.
Okay.
I mean, if you're asking, are we going to vote yes or no, are we going to appoint him? No, I do not intend to take that up.
Okay.
So some history, because one of the things that seems to have surprised a lot of people, because I know it's very hard to follow the goings-on in town, and that what happens is something gets attention, and then it just blows up and gets a lot of attention. But I want to kind of review some of the history of the town engineer position and the conversations we've had about it. So it would be impossible to count the number of meetings that we've had, because we've been talking about it for over 2 years, this town engineer position. Preceding the May of 2024 town meeting, there were a number of conversations with the select board, with Board of Health, with the Highway Department, about having this town engineer position. So on the May 2024 annual town meeting approved funding for a position and approved the personnel bylaws that created the position. So before it got to town meeting, it went to personnel board, it went to numerous meetings, it was publicized at the time. I was opposed to it at the time, but it moved forward. Town meeting decided that we wanted this position. Town meeting created it in the personnel bylaws, and town meeting funded it. Now, we did not hire anyone at that time. So after the annual town meeting, there were still some more conversations going on throughout that time period. It basically got delayed, mostly because we were worried about funding for the next budget. But then again, in May of 2025, so this is the most recent annual town meeting, the position was funded in the town budget at $123,600. We also specifically had a bylaw that eliminated the residency requirement for the position, because it was originally posted in the highway department. The town meeting, town bylaws had a highway residency requirement. So in May town meeting, the voters approved that the position did not need to have residency. So right before the town meeting, in April of '25, the select board approved the final job description, the posting, and the advertising of the position. So right after town meeting, so once we understood that it had been budgeted in May, we posted the position on the town website. We posted it on the local cable television, and we posted on the Mass Municipal Association website. The primary source of municipal jobs like these, or the primary place that applicants would look, is the Mass Municipal Association website. Now, I know, because you all pointed it out, I looked myself, it isn't currently on the town website, and that's because once we went through the screening process, so just go back here. So it's not, I agree, it is not currently on the town website. So the posting was officially posted on May 7. We received one application. So we had one applicant, Mr. Fernandez. And then we were hoping to get some additional applicants, but we didn't get any. So we, at a town meeting, or at a select board meeting in August, we agreed that Dick Brewer and myself would interview the candidate along with Jim Hartnett and Chris Gonzalez of the Highway Department. So the position, when we closed the position around the same time that the new website came up. So I'm not sure if it fell off the website because when we closed it or because the new website just didn't have it on.
It's a combination of both. But it has not been on the new website.
It hasn't been on the new website, but it was closed whenever the posting date said to close. I think it was in August, it was closed. So that was the process. So we talked about it in a meeting. Dick and I did talk with the candidate. We did have a conversation with them. The process is we can't talk together. So we can't all decide, hey, what do you want to know about Roger? Hey, what do you want to know about Roger? Like, we can't all do that. We can only have two people or else we have a quorum. So the process is we made the recommendation, we're bringing it to the select board. So the meeting tonight is to talk about, or was posted to talk about whether we should hire Mr. Fernandez for this position. So this is the process and how it works. Now, once we posted this, or even before we posted this, we did get a lot of feedback from the community in various different forms that said, hey, you should take another look at this guy, and here's some things you should take a look at. So I know I heard you. We need to take another look at this guy, and there's some things the community has brought to our attention. I think, Craig, I know you probably heard from people too about take a look at this person. So I think it's fair that we come to this meeting and we say we've heard from the community that we need to take another look. And so I think that's what we need to do. So what I want to talk about in kind of option in section 2 there is to talk about what else should we be doing to kind of screen a candidate. Are there other qualifications that we want, or do we even want the position at all? So that's kind of a mixture of 1 and 2, but that's what I have to say. Anything you want to add to just kind of background before we get into the meat of this? Yes.
There was some conversation about a part-time versus a full-time position, and I think that might be worthy of further discussion. That's one that we sort of vacillated on a little bit. We thought the full-time position was needed, but one could make an argument that it's not needed at this time. It may evolve into that. So I think that should be also part of the discussion. Gives us an option as to proceed one way or the other, if we elect to proceed at all.
Yeah. And I know that I had been opposed to the full-time position, mostly because it was a high cost, it's a high salary position. and we're already struggling with the operating budget. At one point, I had recommended that we use contract resources so that it would probably cost more money to use contract resources, but we could use one-time funds more easily with a contractor, so that when you put it in the operating budget, you now have an employee who gets benefits and is subject to the labor laws and legislations. It's a little harder to lay someone off than it would be to just discontinue a contract. So I know that was something that we had talked about. It was ultimately, we decided to go forward with full-time, but that was another one that we put on the table. Did you want to say something?
I think I'm probably the one to blame for the huge turnout here today with reference to the town
Love to
engineer.
have people here.
But my concern is, without me posting that agenda and pointing out this agenda item, would this board have gone through with the hiring of Roger Fernandez based upon the background and, I would say, checkered past there? That's my concern. I know we're putting this on delay, and I will address the general nature of the town engineer position, which I have opposed since I ran for the select board in April. But my concern is, without any visibility on this agenda topic, would we be here with a 3-to-1 vote on moving forward with this individual?
There would be no way to know that.
We're not moving forward with a 3-to-1 vote for hiring the individual.
Without the outcry from our constituents and from the public, I believe that we probably would be going in that direction. Am I correct?
That is your assumption.
Okay.
I think it's very hard to follow topics like this. Like I told you, like we've had 2 years plus of talking about this. It's not new. And we've heard a lot of favorable support for this. We heard it at town meeting, we heard it at, so you're right, these particular people probably wouldn't have come out had you not called attention to it. So I think it's good that attention was called to it. But it's also unfair to say it's been secretive or sneaky. We have been doing this for a very long time with a lot of visibility. So it's very hard to figure out the right way to communicate this so that everybody feels like they're engaged all along. So I appreciate your passion for this, but it's very hard to get that kind of attention all the time.
My concern,
Let Craig.
I think, though, that we did bring it to town meeting. We did talk about it. And when you think about the fact that this position passed through 2 processes, it also voted down the water and sewer project on Route 6 in terms of raising taxes to do that. So it wasn't like it was a lockstep movement. You know, that there was a recognition at the same meeting that they were voting against a project that he was working on. They were supporting the idea of having that position of a town engineer. So, you know, the town did, you know, give the town meeting members credit for being able to distinguish one issue from the other, and which we did collectively as a town meeting.
but they were not, married together. We have an individual that is, and you say we can't discuss.
I'm not
is
going
that
to talk
individual-
about the individual himself.
Well,
So,
That's why I wanted to table it.
yeah,
And you
Well-
didn't recognize my motion.
I recognize it, you didn't get a second.
Well, I had a tentative second. You want a second?
Well,
So we
The
can
re-
get this one, put this one to bed?
So, but I think, so.
I'm concerned with, you just said, let's put this to bed. We are talking about an individual that if you went through and did a simple Google search, should not be a viable candidate for this town engineer position.
I disagree.
I
did a Google search, and I looked it up.
Well,
So, wait,
I just-
no, stop for a second. The person is not here to defend themselves. There is a news article. I read it, I saw it.
Numerous
I
news
saw the news
Numerous.
articles about the event. I read the investigative report that the town of Hingham did.
Here it is.
I talked with the candidate about this specific issue in an interview, and he adequately answered my questions about it. Now, I appreciate that we have some concerns that are real about is this an individual who could potentially have an ethical problem here in Westport? Is this a person who had an ethical problem before? Or is this a person that is not qualified for the position, right? So those are valid I think we can talk about in what we want for the position. What type of qualifications do we need that maybe this candidate didn't have? Like, do we inadequately describe the qualifications for the job? Now, I want to be really careful with accusations about a specific person. The work that, I just want to be careful about that, Jake.
That's why.
Well, that's why Craig didn't want to talk about it.
The title of the position is town engineer. The individual that was supposed to be appointed this evening is not a licensed engineer and is not allowed to stamp projects.
So this is a requirement that was not in the job description that you think should be added, right?
That would
So
be
I also want to be really clear that this is not about the water sewer project. I want to tell you why I changed my mind on needing a town engineer, because it's not about the sewer project. For me, what was really important is that we have a lot of background on infrastructure projects, on planning projects, on work that is done that with the DOT and with the various state agencies. And we've had a very strong candidate in Jim Hartnett because he has a lot of experience reviewing these contracts, negotiating with the state, doing a lot of the kind of project management for some of these types of projects. It's unusual to have a town administrator that has that skill set, that is the engineering type infrastructure skill set that Mr. Hartnett has. So once we knew that we were losing Mr. Hartnett, I thought it was important to kind of move forward with an engineer so that we had somebody who could be reviewing the Kirby Brook Bridge diagrams and who could be looking at the Route 177 roundabout and who could be helping us work through the culverts and that could be helping us figure out what to do with East Beach Road. So this isn't just about water and sewer. That's just how we have seen him here in town executing his job. So it's fair to say you don't want to hire the person, and it's fair to say we want somebody who can stamp these drawings, but we didn't say that up front, and so we didn't know that, to screen that up front.
So if we're talking about it in general terms, I believe that right now, I think we've laid out the timeline over a 2-year time period. But I still believe at this given time that the timing is wrong. We're currently in the process of hiring a new town administrator. So I think you would hire the town administrator with who this person most likely, which I don't have an organizational chart and no day-to-day duties were laid out, would most likely be reporting to. So I think you'd probably want a town administrator in place that would work closely with this town engineer and would have a good relationship. So I think we're a little bit putting a cart before the horse in that situation. The other thing I've seen is we're expanding the town administrator's office to an extent. Paula will be there as assistant to the town administrator, and she can take on many of these projects, not in the engineering statement of it, but this possible engineer was more as a project manager. And the August 18th meeting, we were told that the job description would include Route 6 water and sewer, Route 177 roundabout. Now I'm going to talk about each one of them. The Route 177 roundabout is a state highway. There's very little stuff that the town engineer is going to do on that. Gifford Road traffic signal, same thing. Chapter 90, which we have an outside consultant doing that, so are we going to still pay the outside consultant and the internal engineer, along with the head of the Westport Highway Department? Hicks Bridge landing redesign. I don't know how an engineer is going to come into that because it's specialized, and that also falls under the Landing Commission. Town dock study. We've actually built up our Marine Services division pretty well, and I would believe they would have the expertise and the ability to outsource to a marine consultant on that. Old high school reuse. That's a long-term building committee. Every single project that was laid out here was something that somebody else is working on. So I never really got a full understanding as to what the day-to-day operations of this person is, who is he reporting to, what's he overseeing, him or her. So while I understand that the position has been approved, I still don't believe that the need, the urgency, and the timing is correct. And just as an aside, we talked about budgeting before. This position right off the bat could probably wipe out a third of the artificial deficit simply by delaying the hire for this unnecessary position right now.
First of all, can people have a say?
Most of those.
Not yet.
No.
I just want to be clear on the process. The board exhausts discussion before we open to the public. I will open discussion to the public, but I am going to limit you to 3 minutes. So prepare concise points, but the board gets to talk first, and then we'll allow the public. Go ahead, Craig.
Okay. A number of those projects you mentioned, Jake, would need an engineer or some internal expertise. These committees don't possess it. Most of the committees you gave as an examples aren't even staffed. We do have committees that are staffed in town, but the long-term building committee is not staffed. They rely upon the talents that we have in the town, and you would probably need somebody with an engineering background or a consultant engineer. The planning board uses and pays money. Mr. Burris, how much money do we spend on consultant engineers? It's paid for by the applicants, not so much by the town.
Correct.
But how much money is expended on that? It's fairly considerable. So these types of resources would be complementary. I've also thought, and it hasn't had enough support in the town, but going back to when I served previously, that we needed a DPW, that we have a lot of complementary skills within the cemetery department, the transfer station, and the highway department, that if we could basically create a single DPW, that we would get some efficiencies of scale and of talents. And this would fit very nicely into that matrix. So I'm not willing to give up on the concept, and I'm a lot more positive than my colleague is. But yes, you can't work in silos, and even these committees that will need some engineering support could you benefit from this type of position. Do we shape it differently? It appears to be there's probably some emerging consensus that there are going to be some additional requirements that we're going to put into the job description. And we're going to have the should-haves versus the must-haves. That's the other thing you do with job descriptions. Everything doesn't have to be a must-have. There are some should-haves and there are some must-haves. And I think that as we start adding some additional requirements or expectations to the job, we'll have to differentiate them between the must-haves and the should-haves.
A quick question on that. I think to get a larger pool of candidates, I don't think just putting it on the MMA site or Massachusetts, whatever municipal association, I think putting it on a Society of Civil Engineers and various other places where engineers, because I have actually spoken to a few engineers in Massachusetts and were unaware and maybe actually would be interested in that position. So I think maybe we have to put a wider scope of where we're putting that out there too, so that we can catch more people.
So that's to the process. So it sounds like, it sounds at a minimum, we want to relook at the job qualifications, and we want to review the job description again, and then look at potentially posting somewhere else so that we could cast a wider net. We have had a second applicant, I believe, has come in, but 2 is not a lot to choose from, right? I think we're going to have problems with a full-time position because the engineers that I work with make more money than that. And so, I mean, it looks like a really high-cost position, but civil engineers who are out in the private sector make more money than that. And so I think it's going to be difficult to hire. But I think it's fair that we go back and relook at it again. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
And this is a question on process. Since it was approved the salary was approved at town meeting, it has to go specifically to that town engineer? It cannot be used for other
It has
purposes?
to go within the personnel budget of the department that it's, is in the highway department?
In the highway department.
So it has to go to personnel at the highway department.
So that's a perfect lead-in to my next plan, which would be to take the $120,000, break it out into a salary of 2 people to work at the highway department, which impacts every single Westport resident and constituent here. All summer, we heard about people cutting grass, cleaning catch basins, repairing roads, and we have a staff of 4 or 5 individuals over there, and I would say that it would go a heck of a long way further to get 2 people making $60,000 working for the highway department than $120,000 dollar person sitting behind a desk.
So I think the reason that that doesn't work is because we have open positions in the highway department right now. So how many, do we have two? We have 2 open positions right now in the highway department that we've been attempting to fill for over a year. So we don't need more, we don't have people to fill the open positions that we have right now. Maybe we do need more.
You may need
And
more money
maybe we
then
need to change
to
something there. There are union contracts that we would have to go into union negotiations if we were going to change, the salaries. But yeah, there are union shop over there with open positions right now.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we have to hire somebody, but it doesn't immediately work that way, right? So what do we want to do? Do we want to go back and think about this for a bit and then revisit Mr. Fernandez? Do we want to task somebody with rewriting some of this? Do we want to hear from the public before we decide what we want to do?
Well, Madam Chair, if I may, there's no shame in looking at something a second time and saying we didn't have enough information, or we had the wrong information, or information was not presented to us. And if now that's made known and we want to take a second look, that's perfectly fine. It's happened to me a lot of times in my life in business. We have to look at things again and again and again, for whatever reason. And there are enough pieces of information and points of view here that reflect that. So I think we should do that at a minimum. How we would do that, I think, although Jim has limited time here, he could start with that and start working on it. And then we go from there. But it might be worth another look, including the thing I mentioned earlier about full-time versus part-time.
Yeah.
I keep hearing that we're talking about this candidate. We're not supposed to talk about this candidate, but again, what's the
You're
pleasure?
the only one
here?
talking about the candidate.
Dick just made a comment about reassessing.
We want to reassess the qualifications. That's not talking about the candidate.
He did make mention of the candidate. So.
No, he didn't.
No, I did not mention his name.
So it sounds like it's important to you that if we should go forward with this position, that the person can sign off on the civil engineering drawings. That was one of the things. So I think if there are other things like that that are must-haves in the position, then we need to kind of coordinate that. I don't hear anybody volunteering to coordinate that right now, and I don't think Jim has time, but I think that we shouldn't hire someone without doing that. We'll have to think about, anybody have to kind of think about whether they want to put that together or not, and then come back and revisit how we're going to attack it.
Okay.
About restructuring the job description, the qualifications, and then Dick is saying, do we maybe make it part-time? Do we make it contract? Like, what do we really
Some
need?
residents of the town who may have some expertise, subject matter expertise that could assist us.
Right, and right, exactly. There are people who may be able to help us, and
We're fuel on a lot of volunteers, and a lot of our boards depend upon people with subject matter expertise to make them effective. And so if there are some folks that want to come forward and help us put together a job description and a process, I, for one, would welcome it.
I think people who have something that they want to share about the specific candidate should contact us. You can send an email to the BOS at Westport, Mass, and it'll go to all of us. I think that if you have ideas for how we should better structure this or better do this, then we also want to hear from you. I'm going to open up the floor to public comment. So according to open meeting law, I can't stop you from saying whatever you're going to say, but I can stop the conversation altogether. And so if this becomes an attack on a specific person, I am going to close the conversation. I just want to be very clear about that. I don't want to spend all time talking about rumors and innuendo and what may or may not this person have done. I don't think it's a productive use of our time. But I will allow you to talk, but I just want to be clear, if I hear people disparaging this person, I am going to stop comment. All right? So I will open the floor to comment. I'm going to set a timer, but just because there's a lot of people here. But if you want to say something, you can go to the microphone.
Okay, David Reposa, 729 Main Road. For one, the position should have been voted by the people.
I want to just stop you there. It was voted twice at town meeting, and
At the town meeting, but not by the people.
the town meeting is the
Should be a big
people.
vote by the people, not just this room or the people in this room. It should be by the people, being a big position. The second thing is, him, whoever it may be, should be voted by the people. He should be on a stand, he should be questioned by the people and voted by the people, not by this room and these people, by everybody, we the people. And that's my complaint with things being passed here alone, even positions, requested by others and done here, not by the people. That position should have been the engineer at the highway department. He was the one that should have the qualifications for the highway department. He should be also an engineer because of the position. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? Wes Thurston, 30 Osborne Street, Westport. I have a couple different questions, so I'm gonna, now more stuff came in that I heard you guys talking, so I'm in support of the position, but I want to kind of understand more of what their job description, kind of what they're doing. I've heard that, they do culverts and roads, and they can stamp, they can't stamp. We had the big project with the school, spent all the money on a school, and then it leaks, messes up different electronics in the school. So is that position also going to oversee these big projects so that way we don't have all these problems that come? I mean, we build big, massive buildings in town, and then we have issues that happen later on. I mean, it's not money well spent. The full-time versus part-time, I mean, we were just talking earlier about an IT guy. We have him part-time. We like to have him full-time. If we had this guy part-time, we could have 4 IT guys full-time. I mean, I know the health insurance and everything else is expensive, but just if we have certain things, it'd be better off maybe using that money elsewhere instead of that. And then I guess one other thing is just the process. I mean, I know there's a whole bunch of stuff that came up online and everything else. But I know you guys didn't have a big pool to choose from in the first place, so I know you guys said you're going to work on that, which thank you. As far as broadening the fishing net to catch more in here, then hopefully we can get somebody from town that can do the position. I know it's not a requirement, but I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
David Lalima, Drift Road. I have 3 perspectives to offer here. One is, it's almost incredulous that in the Commonwealth of 351 towns, we get 1 applicant. And I guess I would query, how is that possible? With all due respect, Madam Chair, $130,000 is not a bad fee to live down here in Westport. Just saying, okay? So I'm just curious as to what and why. I don't know the answer to that. As a citizen, I think 1 person is applying for this job. It makes no sense to me. The second issue is, why would you precede that before you hire a new town manager? Where these 2 people have to work collegially to work on projects in the town. It's cart before the horse. I agree with Jake on that point. It's illogical to me, to why you would put one before the other. And the third, I'm in a senior moment here, is that there are a lot of, I've said this, I'm a broken record, okay? That there are a lot of people here who want to volunteer and want to help, okay? And I don't know how you integrate the vast majority of people who are retired and live here, who have unbelievable degrees, and how and why we are enlisted to help, even in the short term, even in the hiring process. I mean, we have people here who worked in HR. We have all kinds of people in this town. And with all due respect, you have a very difficult job. The 5 of you have a difficult job. And it doesn't seem to be a forum for problem solving outside that forum right there. And therefore, we're stuck with this. And I don't think it works. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hello, Keith Dias, McKinley Street. So I just wanted to, first of all, I wanted to really ask the board to seriously reconsider this position. The topic got opened today that obviously the money has to go to the highway department because it was town voted on. And I will echo the sentiments with the town vote. Part of the problem with that is currently where our town votes take place, those auditoriums can be loaded sometimes to push a certain agenda. And as Mr. Raposa was pointing out, it's not always about the people actually being heard. It's about a select minority of the people being heard because they want to push a certain agenda.
I'm going to have to ask people to cut the comment.
So I just want to say that I think that's part of the problem is how that got through 2 times in the first place, because there seems to be an overwhelming consensus that people feel the town doesn't need a town engineer or that position. So I want to echo what Jake was saying there and just say that I would like to really ask the board, as you go back to the table and reconsider this, maybe reconsider not hiring a town engineer at this point, table that, maybe take that money, put it into the highway department. There's 2 open positions. As you've said before, sometimes our town doesn't pay enough. Maybe those positions are not competitively being paid enough, so maybe we should up the pay and fill those positions. I think that benefits the town and the residents of the town a lot more than that engineer position does. And as it's also been pointed out, I think we need to fill the town administrator position before we hire a town engineer. So I think the money's useful, but I think the money's useful for the highway department and not an unnecessary position. So I just really ask you to think about that as you guys go back to reconsider before just creating another, listing for the job and putting it back out there and looking for a candidate. Just consider the job itself and whether or not it really benefits this town and the people of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, so we're going to not take action on this specific topic, and we are going to regroup on how to handle that and come back with another proposal. So we're done with that topic. I'm just going to ask you, if you're leaving after this topic, which please stay. There's other stuff that's going on in town, and if you want to be informed about everything. But if you want to leave, please do not congregate in the hallway and talk, because it's very disruptive to the meeting. So please, if you're going to chat, please go downstairs or to the parking lot. And I will just give you a moment for people who want to leave. Okay.
It's an exciting meeting. I mean, look at
But
this
you've
turnout.
seen it. They all stayed, too.
I know.
They never stay. I say that every time.
They
and
know
no one ever
They know I'm not
stays.
done. They know I'm not done.
Okay, so,
Excuse me, Ms. Chairman.
go ahead.
Glenn Mock, Princess Pine Way. I'm curious, could you make available the copy of the description for the position? It seems like it's been withdrawn from the MMA site, and a lot of materials are not available on the new town's website. I think you might be aware of that, but includes this information. But I'd like to see a copy of the description that was prepared and submitted, and I'd like to know where I could get a copy of that.
All right, so Paula, can you get that?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have a request from Patrick McBride, who I think is here. To reject the 25% design plans for the Kirby Brook Bridge.
Might take me a while, my legs are sleeping.
You can come
not
to the front if you want. We have such comfortable chairs out there in the audience. We got pretty fancy chairs here. I don't.
No, they're terrible chairs.
Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate the time to address you, and maybe first, a little clarification. I used reject. Maybe we could just say move aside. But a couple of things I just need to recap, probably for the audience here. I don't think a lot of people may be familiar with this, but we've been talking about the bridge and guardrails for 5 years, meeting in this room with many people. And I think we accomplished a lot during those 5 years, but 5 years is too long. We've been working with Mass DOT and PAR Engineering for about 3.5 years, and I thought we were making some progress. We thought we were making some progress until we received the letter from Mass DOT. I think back in July, we received a response from Mass DOT. Basically, Mass DOT said, yes, we read, we heard, we listened, and no. They declined any action that we had recommended working with PAR. So we worked with PAR for about a year after Mass DOT said, work with PAR, make your suggestions, come up with some solutions, and present them to us. We did that, and they declined everything. We're not fighting the bridge. We're not fighting the guardrails. We're just trying to make it right and do it well. I think I heard that a couple times tonight. So we are just really heads down, buried in this. We want to do this right. We have an opportunity to set a standard here in Westport, and we can also be consistent with other culvert and bridge work that will be taking place elsewhere with the Buzzards Bay Coalition, 3 culverts. design. I can get into detail about why I think we should move to Mass DOT. Do you want me to do that?
I don't know about detail. We've talked about this project a lot.
Right. But I think I'll hit some highlights.
Okay.
First of all, in the letter that Mass DOT sent to us in July, they stated, and I'm quoting Mass DOT, and this is, PAR sent Mass DOT a letter, and then Mass DOT wrote a letter to this town of Westport. In that letter, Mass DOT said, PAR recommends that the design dated October 6, 2023 should be advanced in favor of other alternatives discussed with the town that propose aesthetic enhancements beyond Chapter 85 bridge standards. Upon review of the situation, Mass DOT is in agreement with this recommendation and has instructed PAR that it may only proceed with the recommended design. That is false. That does not exist anywhere in the letter from PAR to Mass DOT. Mass DOT just fabricated that powerful statement and put that in the letter. Okay? It does not exist. PAR Engineering never said that. Okay? That's number one, and I think that's big. Number two, the design work is incomplete. There's been no traffic study. The design speed has been made up. We've asked them several times to describe and give us information on how you came up with the design speed. They have not been able to do that. There has been no protection of the historic stone bridge or mill foundation that currently exists on site. There's been no protection or plans to ensure that that does not disintegrate during or after construction. And there has been no historical review to date. This bridge will be over-engineered and overbuilt. It will look similar to the Mass Pike. It will cost more to build, and it will cost more to maintain. We have actually recommended cost savings in our solution, wood posts, wood blocks for guardrails, which are much cheaper than the steel and the rubber. Many other things that we proposed are also just getting declined and ignored by Mass DOT. Lack of sensitivity to rural historic areas, no landscape plan, use of riprap in the stream bed, so on and so forth. No use of concrete, stamped concretes, or anything to add some beauty to the appropriate site. Lack of design, build, and continuity or consistency with the Tripp Brook and the BBC culvert work on Snell and Lyons Brook. So there's been no coordination or anything that's going to look similar to what's being designed for that. The BBC is at a 30% completion rate of their design for Snell and Lyons Brook. And then just basically lack of renderings. We've asked for showing lifelike three-dimensional views of the bridge and stuff like that. We have not received that. Those are just some of the things that they're just ignoring and just moving on. So we professionally request that the Select Board vote to reject the current plan as submitted by PAR and Mass DOT and move on from Mass DOT at this time.
Thank you. So we've talked about this a number of times. So the Mass DOT has got this plan, and they are looking for the Select Board to kind of say, yes, please go forward, right? And so that they will continue with the design. We don't have to. We can reject it. If we reject it, then we kind of stop our involvement with the state for that program. And I think the kind of concern for why you would go forward with DOT is that the bridge inspection report has shown deficiencies. So there is a problem with that bridge. And if we don't move forward with the Mass DOT process, their small bridge program, then it's unlikely we would get a grant in the future from that program. We don't know if we would get a grant in the future anyway, but it would be very unlikely that we would get one. And if we did, it would have to follow their design, right? So I think we talked about this at a previous meeting about the implications of saying no. You want to just remind us what the implications are, Jim?
Yeah, I think if we say no, we don't have any other funding source that would potentially fund a design, never mind the construction. We have a bridge that has been determined to be deficient, and it may be okay for 5 years, maybe okay for 15 years in its current state, but at some point, Mass DOT is going to come down and say it's deficient, we're going to put weight limits on it. And what those weight limits could mean different things, right? It could be for heavy trucks, or it could be for school buses. And if we had weight criteria put on that bridge for school buses, it would be a significant problem for our school system. And it's got to be fixed at some point. I just want to say if we give this money up, we're not going to get it back. And I went through the Buzzards Bay Coalition designs, and you're right, they're at the 25, 30% designs. They're large. Two of those are relatively small. They're actually culverts, they're pipes. This is a bridge structure that they're building here. One of the culverts that they're looking at for Buzzards Bay Coalition is a bridge structure, but it's 26% less, smaller in size than what we're proposing. And they're already up at $2.2 million for construction of that one. And that estimate's about a year old. They haven't got into the design as far as guardrails and protection, but from what I've seen over the years, it's going to be very similar to what Mass Highway's doing. Mass Highway's doing this design on all their projects. They're doing it at state boat ramps. They're doing it, they just did it at Demis Lloyd. It's a standard design. It meets design criteria. If we had an engineer, that engineer, I think, would tell you the same thing. So, if we don't go forward, we don't go forward. I think it makes things,
But I guess the
I
thing is.
just don't have an alternative solution. That's my concern.
There are other alternatives out there. It's, Mass DOT is not the only one that can provide funding. There are, Buzzards Bay Coalition can provide funding. There's other DER projects within Massachusetts that will provide funding. So there are other funding opportunities out there. Mass DOT is not the only place to get the funding for this. Okay, and that's, I think, why we're saying, well, they're dangling this money in front of us, we got to take it. If we don't take it, we're going to lose it. That is not the case.
I disagree.
Okay?
Go ahead.
So we discussed this at the August 18th meeting pretty extensively as well. I think the thing that have changed over the past 3 weeks is that there has been basically from the administration in D.C. that they are cutting $32 million of federal funding from both Massachusetts and Rhode Island for DOT and for transportation projects. So with the cost of this bridge looking at $3.5 to $4 million, that's right, $3.5 to a $4 million bridge on Drift Road. I just don't see the need to continue to go down the path with Mass DOT. We don't want to give the state the oversight of a small historical country road. And I do believe that, and I know there are worse bridges in town than that one. I think that was a situation where guardrails were put up and it kind of elevated the image of the bridge and others to look at it. But I think there are many others in town. So I always look at this stuff from a funding mechanism and to make a deal with the devil, with the Commonwealth for a $4 million bridge that, again, they will not fund completely. We would probably have to come up with $1 million to $1.5 million to match that, and I just don't think that's feasible. And in this environment, we're probably looking at a build of maybe 2 to 3 years down the line, so it's not going to be $4 million at that point. So I would have to agree with Patrick and probably try to disassociate from Mass DOT on this project.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I expressed some concern about ceasing and desisting last time for fear that somewhere down the road we would need the money to build a bridge and we wouldn't have it. But I do think, as I listen to people and I think through it myself, abandoning this project and abandoning the bridge are two different things. I would be happy with what Mr. McBride has described, that there are or maybe other sources of funds to take care of this project at some point in time. At what cost, we don't know. When, we don't know. I mean, it's a bit of a wild card, but as long as we're committed to fixing that bridge in a reasonable future, to the extent we can, and I would be okay with not going forward with this 25% plan at DOT. But I do that knowing there's some risk either way.
I tend to be with Mr. Brewer on this one, which is, there's not a lot of, motivation to go along with a plan where you do seem to have a gun put to your head. But we also, I think I agree with Jim on the point, if we lose that as an artery for school buses, it could be problematic, to say the least. And so I think we have to keep the options, we have to keep this in play in terms of something that we have to be looking for, in terms of other funding resources, in terms of other design concepts. And we just can't walk away, kick the can down the road and just hope nothing happens badly in the meantime.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, what is the action that DOT is asking us for now? They're asking us to approve going forward, right?
They want to know whether they should move forward with the design as they're proposing, or if we want to step
If
away
we
from
want to
the project.
withdraw, right? So they're looking for us to tell them, please go, keep going, or no, please withdraw.
I mean, I still think we're not happy with the design, but we're not willing to abandon the project.
Yeah. And if,
Well, that's kind of what the last couple letters have been, right? So that's kind of what we've been saying to
Right,
them.
well, why do we have to say something different?
I don't know, is there pressure from somewhere?
Well, we can put it back in their court and just say, we want to move forward with the design, but kind of on our terms, maybe not those exact
yeah,
words.
I mean,
I just don't think they're willing to concede on a lot of that. Dick and myself have sat in numerous meetings with Mass DOT and PAR Engineering, and PAR was the most accommodating of anybody, as Jim knows. But when it went back and they got the pushback from Mass DOT, I do think there's a lot of state culvert project money out there. Like you mentioned, there was some new emails putting out from DER, along with Buzzards Bay. I think the concern about a weight limit, I know the Forge Bridge has a weight limit on Forge Road there over the waterfalls. That does have a weight limit, and but that is only restricted to tractor trailers and other stuff. I think, half
How many
empty.
school buses go over the Ford
Yeah,
Bridge?
they do. Well, they're half empty, and kids don't weigh a lot, so.
right, exactly. Half of them aren't there.
Well, that won't change. It will always be half empty.
So, Mr. McBride, so what is the rationale instead of just kind of saying, yeah, go forward, but please change your plan? What's the rationale for rejecting it? Or just saying, no, we're not moving forward anymore?
It's just unacceptable to us, the town of Westport, as designed, and as I stated.
This is not close enough to be fixed, or they haven't shown a willingness to.
They haven't shown a willingness to work with us at all on anything. So, and I guess, we've come a long way when we were opposed to guardrails 5 years ago to saying, yeah, we want a bridge, we want to do it right, we're going to have guardrails, we've accepted that. We just said, let's just do this right, okay? And I think we know what we want. I don't want to speak for all the neighbors and abutters here, but we know we want a bridge. We know we want to have a bridge that fits in and that sets a standard for the other bridges and culverts in the town.
But you think that the way to get there is not through the.
Not through Mass DOT. I mean, we want to pursue this and keep going forward, but we don't want to do it with Mass DOT.
Mass DOT was pretty adamant in some of our meetings where they said, if you guys don't go forward or continue to move forward with this, and have funding sources, there's going to be a point in time here in the near future where they're going to ask, okay, where are you getting that $1.5 million to match whatever we're going to put forth? So then we're going to be on the hook again, depending on how far down the line we are. So I don't like making a deal with the state. That's on a local road.
Does anyone from the public want to say anything?
Hi, Weston Thurston. Just wanted to be in agreement with the gentleman up there speaking. I mean, we have that old stone bridge that's right there on the side of it. It used to be a big heron run. I think that stuff there needs to be really taken in consideration. Jake's on the conservation committee there. That's those two things there alone. I would say don't go with with Mass DOT, if they're not going to take into account that stuff. I mean, they're not here in town, living in town, and dealing with all that. So that's a part of our history. It's a part of our town. To just overlook it and have it detrimental fall in or whatever down the road because of their oversight when they don't even care to fix the guardrail physique or whatever else. I think that we should look at another avenue.
Thank you. So what's the pleasure of the board? What do we want to do?
I'll put forth a motion to basically decline moving forward with the Mass DOT design phase. See if anyone seconds it.
Do we have a second?
Madam Chair, if I may think aloud here, I'd like to second that, but with the proviso that we would continue to pursue construction of the bridge.
Through other means?
Through other means.
Yeah, I can live with that wording.
I agree with that. That's fine.
Then I second it on that basis.
Do you want me to change the motion? Or does it matter?
Yeah, okay.
So
Do
obviously,
you get that, Paula?
do you have it? Okay, then that's fine.
Is there any discussion? Did you have something?
I thought there was a second.
No, there was a second. I said, is there any further discussion? Sorry, I was talking fast. All right, so we have a motion and a second to decline moving forward with Mass DOT, but can keep the project as something we are pursuing through other means. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 4 in favor and 1 absent. There we go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. No congregating in the hallway. All right, so K, we have a request to designate select board members to participate in the administrative assistant confidential clerk interviews. So we have vacated the administrative assistant position when we just moved Paula forward. And we have a number of applicants already, right? So we have a number of applicants. So does anybody want to be volunteering to participate in the interviews?
I'd be happy to volunteer.
All right, so we have Jake and Dick. Is that okay? All right, so Jake and Dick are going to sit in on interviews for those folks, so you coordinate with Jim. The draft barrier beach management plan presentation. Wow, sorry for making you wait this long. Thank you for your patience. It's been a long time since we had a meeting this long. Like, it used to all be this long. Can you introduce
Would you like to
yourself?
wait for the other select board members to?
No, they'll be back.
Okay.
He'll be back.
All right, I'm Michael Burris, and this is Connor Offsland from Woods Hole Group. I'm the town planner here in Westport. I think, as you all remember, in 2023 and 2024, there were a series of southerly storms that caused a lot of overwash on East Beach Road, as well as undermining the road and necessitating the reconstruction of that portion of the road. And so one of the things that the select board had asked the planning board to look into is how the town should be or can be managing these barrier beaches in town that are really vulnerable to storm events, sea level rise. And so we applied to a coastal zone management grant as well as a municipal vulnerability program grant, and were awarded both those grants. And so we put out an RFP and hired Woods Hole Group to prepare this barrier beach management plan. And Connor will present that plan to you all.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, so this is just an introduction to the project. We want to put it on the select board's radar, but this is a project that has been going on since about March 2025 and will continue through a permitting process in the near future. There's been a grant application submitted by Michael and his team to continue that permitting process. So I will just give you an update, essentially. I hope to use no more than 10 to 15 minutes, but thank you for your time. So again, my name is Connor Offston. I'm a coastal scientist with Woods Hole Group. We've been working with the town and Michael, Dia, Chris Capone really closely. We also have Sam Haynes and Rebecca Haney in the audience here from Coastal Zone Management, in case you have questions for the state. We've been working with MVP and the Southeast Regional Planning and Economic Development District as well. This project has two parallel projects ongoing. One is the Barrier Beach Management Plan, and that is going to be submitted as a draft and then ideally permitted in the town through a notice of intent process. And that is for day-to-day management of the beaches. That includes Highway Department, Commission, Conservation Commission, even dog enforcement. It covers the whole gamut of everything that takes place on the beaches that are within this project. But simultaneously, we are also performing a beach and dune restoration feasibility study, and that is essentially looking at the mid to long-term prospect of roads behind barrier beaches. So I'm going to present a little bit first about the beach and dune restoration feasibility study and the long-term prospect and opportunities and constraints there with managing these beaches. on a large scale, and then we will end by talking a bit about the Barrier Beach Management Plan and the day-to-day approach. So where are we looking? We are studying Atlantic Ave, Beach Ave, and the Nubble, and then East Beach Road along East Beach. And the reason these three sites were put forward by the town in their RFP is because there are public roads along barrier beaches. Now, a quick aside, what a barrier beach is a spit of sand that runs between two water bodies on the open ocean. So Atlantic Ave at Elephant Rock Beach Club, there is between the open ocean and then the inland bay. Beach Ave and the Nubble, between Westport River and the ocean, and East Beach is between the ocean and the Let. And barrier beaches respond in a very different dynamic approach to sea level rise and coastal storms than you might have, say, a beach at the bottom of a bluff. They play a very important role in the town. They are the first buffer against storms and hurricanes, such as Hurricane Aaron, which we saw recently brush by. They also provide essential habitat, critical endangered species, piping plovers, least tern, and then lastly, and perhaps most importantly, support public access and recreation. So I want to talk a little bit about the vulnerability of these beaches. We'll talk about that, and then adaptation, and then management. So I think vulnerability is probably something you all are more aware of than myself. The beaches in Westport have been hammered by a series of coastal storms for decades. In the 1938 Great Hurricane, New England hurricane, was one of those storms which destroyed several houses along East Beach in particular, overwashed barrier beaches, and destroyed native habitat. There was the hurricane of 44, Hurricane Carol in 54. Those were on a scale that actually has not been seen since. So those three hurricanes in the early 1900s were significant. However, since that time, we've had Hurricane Bob, and then Hurricane Sandy, Hurricane Eileen as well, and most recently Hurricane Aaron, which was way offshore and drove a very moderate or minor actual storm surge, but still ended up overwashing the beaches. So while we have seen historically very large storms here, we are seeing less extreme storms at these beaches, but they are doing similar damage. There is erosion, there is overwash, and there is undermining of the roadway. And I think, Jim, thank you. You got the video going there for a second, which is pretty cool. So we'll see if we can get this to play. One of my colleagues went out on, thank you, on the 21st and just filmed a little bit of the process of Hurricane Aaron's storm surge and waves overwashing the beach. Now, this stormwater level turned out to be about a 1 or 2 year storm. So this is the kind of condition that will happen almost annually. And you can see that cars are driving through the water. There is sand being washed into the roadway. There's undermining of homes. The waves are washing underneath several of the foundations. At one point through the video, it's okay if you can't get a Jim. It's probably a heavy video. You can see at one point a trash can gets picked up and washed away and dumped. And all to say that even minor storms are causing damage, and so the vulnerability of these beaches is high on the priority of folks who visit and live there. It's also costly to recover from these events. So January 10th and 13th were one that was documented very greatly by the town. There was about 190 hours in staff time, 245 hours of equipment cost to the highway department, totaling about $28,000. And then there was $120,000 of undermining and damage to East Beach Road during January 10th and 13th storms. Now, those storms, again, equated to a low-level storm, about a 4 or 5 year storm. So every 4 to 5 years, that it would not be crazy to think there's going to be another $150,000 of damage to East Beach Road. We also, in this process, have done a quick value estimation of the public assets along this area. Along East Beach, there's about $28 million of assets. This is utilities, roadway infrastructure. I'm blanking on the other public assets themselves, public property. Along Beach Ave, it's not very developed, but there still is about $2.5 million of public asset there, and Atlantic Ave, 11 million. So we just wanted to highlight that there is a vulnerability, there's a cost to that vulnerability, and that there is still more assets there that are at risk. So while it costs $150,000, there is $28 million of value just in the infrastructure alone. So looking to the mid to long term, how might we adapt to that? What many coastal towns in Massachusetts are doing are nourishing their beaches. What that means is bringing in sand, sediment, cobble, if appropriate, to expand the height and the width of these beaches to act as a buffer against storm waves. You know, if your beach is wide and high, you can have waves breaking offshore. And if they're not running up and overtopping your roadway, your maintenance costs are going to be much lower. Same goes for a dune restoration project. If you can build a dune that is high and wide, it can provide, one, a source of sediment to that beach. It's a reservoir of sand. It also provides a buffer between wave run-up and the roadway itself. And then it also helps protect against sea level rise. It's more resilient. It has vegetation that roots can extend deep down into, and it can better stabilize your shoreline. So looking at these nourishment alternatives, there are more than just as presented here, but I'm trying to keep it concise. These are three of the main approaches that may be taken to build long-term resilience along these beaches, with the aim of restoring habitat, protecting the road from storms, and preserving beach access. At Atlantic Ave, a beach and dune restoration project on the scale of 100,000 cubic yards could cost about $8 million. That project would be useful to Atlantic Ave, which has seen erosion over the years, and we have data supporting that. And it would be able to protect against a moderately sized storm. Along Beach Ave, we've proposed a conceptual design of a 100,000 cubic yard beach nourishment project, again, with the aim of expanding coastal resources and protecting the road from erosion and undermining. And that cost, because the project area is smaller, is about $1.5 million. And then at East Beach, where the condition is most severe and the need is probably greatest, a beach and dune restoration project could cost for about 200,000 cubic yards, twice the size of Atlantic Ave, would cost about twice as much, about $15.7 million. Now, those projects come with a great benefit. We have a coastline here that is sediment starved, so we need to be bringing sand in. If we want to maintain status quo at these beaches, there is going to be an absolute need for artificially bringing in sand, whether that comes from offshore or from inland, can be considered down the line. But actually, the reality of putting that into place is very difficult, and I just wanted to, present that to you so we don't get ahead of ourselves. It is very expensive. Large volumes of imported material and heavy equipment costs, upwards of $15 million. It's about $40 to $50 per cubic yard of sand. And that's a cost that many of the residents at East Beach are taking upon themselves as they permit and construct their own beach and dune nourishment projects. If the town were to go forward with a project like this and public funding were to be utilized, that would require easements for shore parallel public access. So essentially, if there's public funding, there needs to be a, quote, public benefit. And how that is typically written in is through working with all homeowners along a private shoreline to allow for easements for public access. That doesn't mean folks can walk through. There's no longitudinal access. It's just lateral access. So you would have to enter the beach from a public entry point, but then you would be able to walk below the mean high tide line from there down the beaches. They are time-consuming and to fund and permit. So at the moment, Coastal Zone Management Office has funded a few beach nourishment projects, but honestly not on this scale. $15 million exceeds the scale of a project that they've funded in the past. And state funding tends to prioritize projects where there is a piece of critical infrastructure to be protected. Not to say that these sites aren't incredibly valuable to the people who live there and use them, and Westport in general, but there are no necessarily pieces of critical infrastructure to be protected. And then lastly, I definitely want to highlight, and we can, if there are questions about this, we have a model. We've done cross-shore sediment transport modeling against various storms and sea level rise scenarios. But these measures are temporary. So putting in constructing one of these projects would provide you protection against maybe that 1-year storm that we just saw in August, maybe a 5-year storm. A 10-year storm in many cases, though, would cause severe erosion, and there would likely be a need to reconstruct. All right, next slide, please. So all of which to say, in the long term, there is a lot to consider, and we have a draft feasibility study that is going to come out at the end of this month, along with the beach management plan, to provide a lot of information and just be a basis of discussion so that the town can be informed as it starts to make decisions of where it wants to go. However, in the meantime, day-to-day management of these beaches can work to maintain the resilience and maintain the benefits that we all enjoy along these beaches as long as possible. So the purpose and intent of the Barrier Beach Management Plan is to identify best practices. These are both state guidance, practices that we are now trying to document specific and tailor to the town of Westport. This is also coming out of our studies themselves and sediment transport modeling that we've done, the different erosion trends that we've seen. This also provides a framework for clear coordination across departments, as well as clear coordination to the public themselves. So this document has many purposes, and as we start to go into the permitting process, it will be an open forum for public comment and approval. A few of the highlights that we will be detailing in that report are storm preparedness. So how can the town of Westport best be prepared, best stage equipment to get out and respond quickly to erosion, to overwash? How can roadway maintenance be best performed so that we are not damaging coastal dune resources at the same time as trying to preserve roadways? For instance, can we pick up overwash sediment and put it in a place where it is going to best serve the beach itself, as opposed to, just clear the roadway? Beach grass and fencing are another strategy towards, day-to-day maintenance and resilience on the near term. So we're looking for opportunities. This picture here is at Atlantic Ave, where they have planted beach grass, they have restored dunes, and the result has been better protection against storms. And then lastly, there is public awareness, and we've held several meetings. We've had a coastal processes meeting in March. We've had a feasibility study meeting in June, a beach management plan meeting in July, and then meeting specifically with East Beach Association and Beach Ave and Elephant Rock Beach Club. All right, so the last slide here I have for you is just what the select board can expect down the line. We are not requesting any input necessarily from you, though we would love questions or comments that you have. But down the line, the Barrier Beach Management Plan will come through an NOI process, and there might be bylaw changes that are recommended in there that would have to be approved by you all. Again, a lot of these mid and long-term solutions will require significant grant funding, so input on, do we pursue grant funding, such as for those bridges? Do we work with DCR or DER or CZM or MVP, or do we look federally for grant funding to achieve those long-term projects? And then lastly, the allocation of town funds will be important both to the day-to-day management and the long-term management. Next slide. That is all for now, and I have a few slides in the back if you want to talk specifics about what these projects can do in the face of storms and what they don't do, which is maybe more the point. But again, this is my contact information up there, and I'm happy to talk offline or right here. Thank you.
As Connor had said, this is a draft Barrier Beach Management Plan, so we're planning on taking this forward to a full draft. We applied to a second coastal zone management grant, and we're waiting to hear about the results of that. That would take the plan through full permitting, and we would submit it to the Conservation Commission and Select Board for adoption at a later date.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Do you have anything?
First, Connor and Michael, thank you for bringing this forward. I think this is very important, obviously, to a coastal community like ourselves. I have obviously a little bit more expertise in this, managing a private beach, a area beach, similar, and we've had a beach management plan for over about 10 years now in place.
Which beach is that?
Baker's Beach, right next to Cherry and Webb and
right.
Horse Neck. So we work, and actually, you guys rent space from us. Woods Hole has facilities and servers down there measuring erosion and a lot of the wavelengths there. So I think it's great. I think it's great that you have the public input on this, because I think this gets to be a contentious issue with many of the residents, on East Beach and other places that feel that they're being kind of singled out on that. The one thing that I just wanted to point out, and I know Michael's aware of it, is, and you probably are as well, is that the Commonwealth is pushing a lot of retreat as opposed to spending the funds and spending the money on nourishment and trying to fix, the coastline. So I just stress that, in the direction that you go, to continue to go down that road on the nourishment and not the actual organized retreat that they're pushing. And the one last thing that kind of infuriates me is that we just dredged the river this past year, and Michael's shaking his head, and the materials from that would be the perfect nourishment, and unfortunately, because it was from the U.S. Corps of Engineers and a federal contract and everything else, that they basically took that said sand, dumped it off a Horse Neck, and it's already back in the mouth of the river at this point. So if there's better coordination and communication between, obviously, research groups like yourself and federal contracts that we're working on, that the nourishment would be a heck of a lot better going on the beaches. And from that location, it could have gone over to Atlantic Ave or the Nubble and actually helped to build that dune up. Because I think you see, over on Atlantic Ave where you have breaches in the dune, that's where the washout's coming from. So the constant wear and tear of that, but, that's a future thing, and I'm sure we'll be dredging that river probably in another 5 to 10 years again when it's filled in. But appreciate all your work and keeping the public informed on that, so thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
Anything else? Anything from the public?
Just one thing real quick. I don't know if they'll be able to answer it or not. In regards to East Beach, has there ever been any discussion or anything like that? Maybe like a paired Narrum style kind of bridge in that area, that if there was another access of water into the Let, that maybe that little bit of less resistance through there would maybe calm that storm surge down if it had another way of means into the river. Because if that was a study that got done, that would also be beneficial to the river itself, having an extra clean out to wash out the river. That would keep the river clean also. That's it.
Yeah, thanks. The question is, actually, everyone has a microphone, so sorry, I'm just used to repeating those. I think that's a great question, and I believe the Let has breached in that way once in the 90s, if I'm not wrong. And it did naturally fill in through lateral sediment transport processes. So there may not be enough tidal flux between the ocean and the Westport River on that side to naturally maintain an inlet in that space. So maybe there could potentially be a breach that connects the Let with the open ocean at some storm. But then maintaining that as an opening, that would need bridge abutments and et cetera. Would that ease the pressure on other parts of the beach? I think that it may just, it would only in that spot exactly where you were to put the road up on the bridge would you really be able to elevate yourself away from and remove yourself from any erosion risk. I think that your issues to the east and the west would maintain, and that you would actually have just some more complications with sand getting into this inlet and trying to maintain this inlet, because naturally it's going to want to close off. So it's an interesting question, but I think it'd be difficult to implement, of course.
Yeah, anything else? We look forward to hearing more from you, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for this opportunity.
So 5B, the use of fields at the old high school. Craig, you requested this on the agenda, so you want to talk about this?
Well, I think it's been taken care of. We had, there was a statement put up by the school department regarding making facilities off limits to, that are under the control of the school during the school day for the public to come by And they've clarified that today, so no, they didn't mean that to be the old high school. That was, that got out a little early, and so that after some conversation between the town administrator and the school superintendent, they're simply concerned at the present time about the buildings and facilities during the school day where children are in school. This will not affect the use of the building and the grounds of the old high school.
Okay, thank you. It does affect the school properties, including the tennis courts, but not the old high school.
Right.
Yeah. Is there anything on that? Since Craig got that answered already. All right, the town administrator report.
Some of this has been discussed a little bit, so I won't go into great detail, but the fire department, police department had a power surge. They had a lightning strike on Friday, August 29th, which took down a lot of their systems, communications, radio phone lines, some of the electrical stuff. A lot of their lighting and HVAC system is on controls. It's not the old light switch. It's all controlled through panels, which will need to be replaced. They're currently working on that now, replacing those. They were able to get the system up and running on a temporary basis to keep communications and the two departments functioning, which was great. They spent quite a bit of time there that weekend. We also found that the well pump at the school was hit, and we believe that was through the same surge, a similar surge at the same night, because they also had some minor damage to some of the other electronics in the Westport Elementary School. They were able to replace the pump in a day, but school was closed on September 3rd. The town administrator search, I'm aware they do have some applications that have been filed with Community Paradigm. They're looking to meet with the committee at the end of September and have interviews the first or second week of October. Town Hall HVAC system.
Can we just stop on that one for a second? So I was talking to Jim about this, so you all know Jim is announced he is retiring at the end of September, and yet we will not have a new town administrator. So I talked with Jim, and what we're going to talk about at the next meeting is negotiating a contract with Jim to continue for some amount of time, so he would still retire and come back on a contract basis until we get our feet under us. So my intention is to talk about that at the next meeting.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Town Hall HVAC system, we met with the electricians last week. I have a meeting with B2Q, who's the main contractor for the work. That's replacing the heating system here with a heat pumps that'll provide heat and cooling for the building. It's a pretty fairly significant project. The electrical upgrade should start, I was hoping they'd start this week. If they don't start the end of this week, it should be next week. We're coordinating with the different departments. Hopefully, we'll be able to close one room while the department moves to the other room. So we'll keep the operation of Town Hall going. Once the electrical work is done, they will have to do remediation on the asbestos. The only asbestos that we're aware of is in the tiles that are underneath these tiles. So when they drill through the floor, they'll have to have precautions to make sure that that is done and mitigated properly. We hope to have that work done within the next couple of weeks. They're still on schedule to get the system up and running by the end of October. They do have temporary heating system if need be, if we do run into a cold spell. So they are aware of that, and they are moving forward. So we should see some progress or some work done within the next couple of weeks. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. The minutes for August 18.
I move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. A report on the bill warrant?
All is well. There might be two in your package because we had 3 weeks off, but they were all in the more normal, couple of $1 million each time. It does add up, by the way, but no complaints. Everything was done properly. We have a new system that came from Zobrio, and that's the vendor that provides our software. So there was some little gyrations we had to do and adjustments, but nothing critical. I actually talked about that last time. So those reports they don't need to be approved, but they are in good order.
All right, thank you. We have liaison committee reports or suggestions for future agenda items. Craig, we'll start with you.
I have nothing since the last meeting.
Okay, Dick?
Well, I'm of a similar vein where I have nothing. However, that's about to change like a cascade here. I am the liaison to the Council on Aging. We will be meeting tomorrow. CERTA, Southeast Regional Transportation, the buses, will be having a meeting. The budget has already been set, but we have routine matters. Then, so we don't all forget, is the Bristol County Commissioners, which includes Bristol Aggie Regional High School, Vocational High School. They're meeting shortly to approve the budget, including Bristol Aggie. There is the Open Space and Recreation Committee, which is recently formed, and I'm on that, representing the Select Board. We meet later this month as well. And last but not least, I serve as liaison to the Landing Commission, which meets next week. So the party's over, back to work.
Back to work.
So next time, we'll have a good report for all.
Okay, thank you. I have not had any committee meetings since the last meeting, so nothing for me.
Well, I've actually had a meeting. Last week, we had the Infrastructure Committee meeting, and there was a decision because, as discussed before us, that there were some grants coming forward to further extend the water project on Route 6. I did push a little bit on getting that water extended to the Briggs Road Fire Station. I think it just made sense. Obviously, it's a fire station. They need water, especially given the fact that we had a pretty severe fire at Excel Recycling on Charlotte White, where we're basically bringing in water from Tiverton through tankers that were coming from Berkeley and Dayton. So that was kind of the decision. There will be a few loops off of Route 6 that will be a part of that, and then extending that across to the Briggs Road Fire Station. So that's what came out of that infrastructure meeting. And then I have an economic development one this week on Wednesday evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have any comments or statements from the public?
Virginia Graham, 65 Osborne Street. I just want to say that infrastructure, if you have driven in my neighborhood, you can see what a horrific job was done when the water was installed. You take your car's life in its hands whenever you go up and down the road. I have no way to get out of my home except to go through those roads. Mr. Hartnett has kindly spoken to me on several occasions, one of them being today, and assured me that it's going to be repaved the end of October, maybe the beginning of November. But in the meantime, I just wanted to make sure that everyone here was aware of how bad the roads in that whole entire area are. The job done by the company who did it was horrific. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anything else from the public? All right, seeing none, I just want to remind people there's lots of ways to get involved. We need a lot of help around here. So if there's a committee or a commission or a talent that you have that you want to share with town, come talk to someone. I'm sure we can find you a spot. I'm not aware of any topics within the 48-hour rule, are there?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, so I think we are done. Our next meeting will be in 2 weeks from today, whatever date that is. September 22nd.
September 22nd.
All right.
Move we adjourn.
Second?